So I think I'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to our webinar today with Kuali. We're going to be talking about Kuali Build, our online forms and workflow automation tool, featuring one of our great success stories, the University of Alabama in Huntsville. We're real excited to have their team with us today to share their story and talk about all that they've learned and discovered and talk about life before Kuali Build and life after. So I'd like to welcome them today. Now, before we jump into their portion of the webinar, I have a quick intro I like to do. I think many of you have probably heard about Kuali in the past, but I'm going to talk a little bit about the company. I'll get through these slides quickly, and then a little bit about Kuali Build, about what that solution is all about. So first of all, the name of our webinar today, Innovation at Scale, how the University of Alabama in Huntsville enhanced operations using Kuali Build. Few housekeeping sessions. This session is being recorded. All of you are on mute today. So if you do have questions, if you look inside the Zoom window, there is a Q&A feature. So be sure to take advantage of that. I'll be watching those questions come in as closely as I can and do my best to try and get to all of your questions over the course of this webinar. My name is Paul Smith. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Kuali and excited to present this webinar with you today. We'll get to introducing our team from the University of Alabama in Huntsville in a moment. A few slides about Kuali. Kuali is a software company designed specifically for higher education. We make software for the future of higher education. Kuali got its start back in 2004 with the Kuali Foundation, which was a group of universities and colleges who got together to build software that was a better fit for their needs than what traditional software vendors had to offer. And then over the next 10 years, the consortium grew rapidly, and it became clear around 2014 that there were increasing needs for a cloud-based SaaS solution, software as a service solution, as well as accelerated development. So in 2014, Kuali was launched as a for-profit company that would focus on design, user experience, and speed of delivery. And we've been evolving ever since. Today, Kuali is a thriving modern ed tech company supporting more than 200 higher education institutions, mainly across the US and Canada. We remain focused on continuing the mission that began way back in 2004, which is building amazing software to meet the needs of institutions in higher education. At Kuali, we have 5 different product lines that we maintain and support. We have financial management software, Kuali Financials. We have business continuity planning software, which is just an increasing need, particularly post-pandemic, to make sure continuity plans are in place for any and every possible outcome across the university. That's our Kuali Ready product. We have a research suite for research administration, which we may get into a little bit today with our friends from UAH. And we have what we call a student suite, curriculum and catalog management solutions. And finally, we have our online forms and workflow automations tool, no code online forms and workflow automations tool, Kuali Build. Kuali Build, as I mentioned, is the no-code solution for online forms and workflows. It's designed exclusively for higher education institutions. When we talk about workflow automation, business process mapping, online forms, digital transformation, and we survey the solutions that are out there, there are 2 types of products that we typically run into. They're simple and easy products that don't require any developers. Things like SurveyMonkey, Google Forms come to mind. They're typically free. They're very inexpensive, but they also aren't very robust. So there's a lot that they can't do. So they don't meet all the business requirements. And then you've got really powerful solutions out there that require developers to create those online forms and create those workflows. So they end up meeting the business requirements, but they tend to be expensive, not just in terms of cost, but in terms of the total number of people required from central IT to support those solutions. What we introduced with Kuali Build is really the best of both worlds. It's a no-code solution, so there's no developers required, but you can create pretty sophisticated solutions that meet really, your imagination can go wild with the types of things that you can build using Kuali Build. So it meets your business requirements and it's affordable. It's going to fall within your budget constraints. Two fundamental truths about Kuali Build. It enables IT to safely increase capacity to deliver solutions across a university. And it empowers departments to create their own forms and workflows. And those two really go hand in hand, because one of the things that we see in higher education is central IT being overburdened and not able to really meet the nonstop demands of departments across campus. And so what ends up happening is a lot of departments will go out and find their own third-party solutions, which hasn't been vetted by central IT. Which there's pros and cons to that. It takes the burden off of central IT, but it introduces a bunch of other problems as well. With Build, you've got a solution that has been vetted, it's secure, but because it's no code and it's easy to use and doesn't require a lot of training, departments are able to really create fit their own needs. They're really become masters of their own domain. A few numbers to date. As of since January of 2020, over almost 12,000 different apps, forms, and workflows have been created by Kuali customers. And in terms of total submissions, right? So this is approvals, workflows, forms submitted. We just crossed the 2 million mark earlier this year. And when you think about that number, think of it in terms of emails not sent, getting buried, no back and forth emails, no PDF documents that need to be filled out, or paper documents in a lot of cases that have to be filled out and then manually keyed into another system. All of this becomes automated through Kuali Build. And the secret behind that number is the fact that we're approaching now 10,000 app builders, right? These are not all developers. In fact, the vast majority of these folks would be like the team that we're talking here today. They're not necessarily developers. They're folks that have been trained on how to use Kuali Build, and now they're building their own solutions. All right, and now at the start of the show, I'm excited to introduce our team from the University of Alabama in Huntsville, the Chargers. We have Dr. Rhonda Kay Gaede. She is the Associate Provost for Undergraduate Education at UAH. We have Rui Guo, the Director of Research Information Systems, and then Scott Sandlin, the Electronic Research Administration Specialist for UAH. So welcome, team. Excited to have you here. Dr. Gaede, I thought we'd start with you, maybe do some brief introductions. The three of you talk a little bit about what you do for the university, and then we'll move on from there.
Okay, so I'm the Associate Provost. I'm a longtime electrical and computer engineering professor. And so to give you some flavor, the units that report to me are the Academic Success Advocacy Program, Disability Support Services, Enhanced Teaching and Learning, the Registrar, and the Student Success Center. So those are the kinds of things that I work with on a daily basis.
Sounds like you have a lot of hats there. Okay, Roy?
Yeah, hi, my name is Rui Guo. I go with Roy. I am the director of the Research Information Systems at UAH. And my team provides information and technical support to the research admin offices that's falling under the Office of Vice President of Research. So we're the research IT group. So
dedicated IT group for research. Got it. Thank you. And Scott?
Hey, I'm Scott Sandlin. I work for Rui, and pretty much my responsibilities as a data engineer, handling several data systems and taking that data and reporting it. And among those are Kuali Research, which Paul mentioned earlier. And since we've taken on Kuali Build, that as well.
Great, thank you. All right, welcome, team. Thanks so much for taking some time today. We're excited to get into your story. Dr. Gaede, we thought we might start with a brief introduction of the university. Can you tell us a little bit about the university and a little bit more about, yeah.
I can. I have some slides prepared, but I can't share them while you're sharing.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, of course. Of course. Let me stop share. There you go. Go for it.
So UAH, I'd never heard of it before. My husband said we were moving to Huntsville, Alabama with the Army, but it's a science and engineering focused comprehensive university in Huntsville, Alabama, home to Redstone Arsenal, Marshall Space Flight Center, and Space Camp. We were founded as an extension of the University of Alabama at the end of World War II, became an autonomous campus in 1969. We may be the only university in Alabama that doesn't play football. UAH grants bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees. And our population that fluctuates a bit, it's been as much as 10,000 and was at 7,000 for a long time, but it's more hovering around 9,000 these days, about 80% undergraduate and 20% graduate. 6 colleges, arts, humanities, and social science, that's all one. Business, education, engineering, nursing, and science. Engineering is the largest college on campus, which is unusual for most places. Science is number 2. So geeks are us, and in Huntsville, it is rocket science. UAH also has 14 research centers with $169.5 million in expenditures for fiscal year 22. So we have a very active research enterprise. Why they have a dedicated IT function. From what I could dig, was really fun digging through my emails to talk about our story, which I skipped the title, but it was our UAH story. And how did we get research working with the provost's office? Well, that happened due to a series of events. I thought the way to tell our story was kind of to go with kind of a timeline. So we're the first to go live with Research Build and Student. We had Ready before that. And so the only thing we don't have from the Kuali portfolio is financials, but who knows? Maybe we'll get there. So just how do people feel about Kuali Build? Oh, I forgot to tell you that my official title is Associate Provost. My unofficial title is Kuali Queen. I'm owning that, and people are coming to say that. Just so you know, Kuali is amazing, and I miss it every day. That's the title of the email. Subject was, you can quote me. So I am quoting him. It's transformative. I love Kuali Build. And for a long time, I'm the one saying, well, you know, we could do that in Kuali Build. The thing is now it's starting to be other people that are saying it. And so it's really started to make an impression. Our apps all time. So we started, our first app went live in June of 22. And we currently have 117 active apps with 42,741 submissions, 130 app admins, and 51 spaces, which are a way of organizing ourselves. One of the nice things about the way Kuali Build is set up these days is that I can create an app administrator for spaces. I can give it to the College of Nursing, and they can decide who in the College of Nursing should be building apps and manage it all on their very own without me having to be involved in all of their decisions, or Roy or Scott giving them access, because we can delegate this responsibility to other units. In the last 30 days alone, we've had 21 new apps and 5,000 new submissions. So we feel like the Kuali movement is growing. Now you might wonder, what kinds of things are we doing with our apps? Well, here are the 10 top apps by number of documents. And we have used a convention that they tell us might be unusual, but before we were spaces, we were trying to keep track of who was doing what and what kind of apps there were. So we gave it a prefix. So MVP is Military and Veterans Program. So that is the top app. Enrollment verification. Then REG is the registrar, contracts and grants, accounting, the bursar, the graduate school, and then the Office of Sponsored Programs. So you can see that, in no surprise, that you have research represented here, and you have the registrar represented here, and that's where a lot of the apps are. But military and veterans programs do not report to me at all, and we're not even under the same vice president initially, but you can see that they have taken apps and gone. And you know how much training I've given to military and veterans programs for Kuali Build? 0. They have taken it and run with it. So it starts in research. We deployed Kuali Research in 2019. That was the first thing. And Roy and Scott went to Kuali Days, I believe it was in San Diego that day, at that time, and they wandered down into the lab and they found Kuali Build. So that speaks to the power of in-person interactions, though it's wonderful that we have webinars like today where we can all talk. Sometimes the chance encounter that you speak with someone leads you to something really good. They were given sandbox access. They continued to look at that in 21. They started reaching out to Office of Institutional Research, which reports to the provost's office. At that time, the current provost was not interested in this or didn't see the value or had bigger fires or something. But research went on and pressed on by themselves, and we had our first environments. And then Bob Lindquist, who is the VP for research, became the interim provost, and he brought me into this office. And so he was talking about Kuali Build. I'm sad to say that I can't remember the first time I ever heard Kuali Build mentioned. I do remember the first time I heard catalog mentioned, but not build. Anyway, so he now had both hats on as provost and vice president of research. So he said, great, let's do a site-wide license. He offered finance and administration the opportunity to participate in this license, but allegedly, I didn't hear it for myself, but our VP said, I don't see a use case for that. I was surprised. Anyway, so I started talking about it at the Dean's Council. We did our implementation. The first research app goes live. We identified, I'm going to talk about how we spread things and also some of the features that may be unique or things that we've done that we thought were kind of clever. So we identified the need for external approvers because we have graduate committees. We have people that serve on committees that are research scientists at NASA and other places. So they're not part of our single sign-on, but we have a way for them to interact with our forms as well. So we're bringing in our users through single sign-on, and actually we're still doing their sync with research, right, guys? Yeah, they're nodding. Okay. We'll say that a lot of our time spent in implementation was on users, groups, and roles. In a perfect world, maybe we'd have everything in our SIS, so we can just pull that over in our single sign-on, our student information system. But we found some ways to work around that, and maybe we'll eventually get to be ideal, but I'm not holding my breath. So then implementation was complete, and the College of Nursing was an early adopter. They do a lot of things with online education, and sort of kind of have some more technology support than some of the other colleges, and kind of were forward, and some of their folks reached out to research to develop an app. So we said to ourselves in academic affairs, what are some of our most common forms? Where could we see this having the biggest effect? And our registrar at the time rattled off 4 forms that she had had in her mind, I think, for a long time that could be improved. And 2 of them were the first that we did with the grade change form and the letter of good standing. And I just checked the numbers of submissions yesterday and put those in to see that they are high level apps. So I started building faculty hiring forms here in the provost office. And so we had a core team who were building apps. And then we had our first request from somebody outside of the core team. And then we started doing our first kind of uses of some integration. And then my standard operating procedure for some people who wanted to get involved with Kuali Build was I said, okay, cool, I'm going to get you builder status, and then I'm going to copy some of the apps that I've done so you can see what they are, you can play with them and figure out what's going on. And so we're having all these forms be submitted, and the deans are being bombarded with emails. And I said, well, you know, you can do things with emails to go into Kuali and do your approval, but you're also go to your action list and see where you can manage those things, maybe in a more centralized fashion, keep up with things. Kuali added tasks. Tasks are things that are not approvals, but require somebody to do something. We found this to be an excellent way of integrating. Sometimes things need to be done outside of the workflow, but you can go in and mark a task as complete, and it's not, you know, people get a little nervous about who's approving. It's only a task. It's not an approval. Don't stress. So then financial aid, which has actually also influenced MVP, military veterans programs, asked for app builder access and just ran with it. And that was in the VP of Student Affairs at the time. We've had a little bit of reorganization. But one of the things I just wanted to point out about what we're doing is how we kind of organically have spread the word in little from person to person, not in any formal way, but we started to get those things out. College of Science joined the group. The reassign feature, one of the things people want is a proxy feature. Reassign does that in a way. So facilities, I would like to point out, is part of finance and administration. So maybe their VP didn't see the utility of having a form, but the facilities group did. So we didn't say, hey, finance and administration, you didn't pay for this software, so we're not going to let you play. We're going to get you hooked, and then you'll come to the party later. Automatic workflow reminders. You all have those people in your organization that need these more than others, but this is a very useful feature. And then I happen to have some passion projects that I do, and we run some summer camps. And so it's not really the university business, but you can use anonymous form submission. So we do all of our camp registration through Kuali Build forms. And then HR asked me to develop an app for telecommuting and flexible work. My boss might be saying, why are you developing apps for HR? And that's an excellent question, but it's crazy, but building apps are fun. So, and I think it's good for the university, and what's good for the university is good for academic affairs ultimately. Arts, humanities, social sciences, education, spaces, and then we get to the burster. So you see, I'm just trying to give you an idea of the breadth of the things that people are doing with Kuali Build. So then I take it to my faculty mind, and we have to collect information that has for accreditation. And I found that that was also a good thing that I could do. Maybe not the normal use case for Kuali Build forms, but something that we have found useful. This was kind of not a game changer exactly, but allowing notification to static email addresses not affiliated with users. So we have a number of offices on campus that use entity accounts. And so they can monitor them by several people. Before Kuali gave us the static email address ability, we had to create Kuali Build accounts to go along with that. And so it was a little cumbersome. That was a nice thing to do. Business service requests access to create Kuali Build travel forms. That's still a work in progress. Compliance, accounting. we found, as we lived with Kuali Build for a while, that our hierarchies might need some modification. And I also found out that we could do multiple interesting things with Google Groups that are really just one person, but you can have them tied to various things. Trying to do things, the roles that we have set up allows us continuity, and we can say this goes to a particular, the resource manager in a particular college, and that's flexible. But there are some other flexibilities. There are roles that people go in and out of that we're managing with Google Groups. Conditional permissions, whoever came up with that at Kuali Build, that is a game changer, because now one of the things that Kuali Build has done for us has given us a lot more visibility into our processes. If you've asked yourself once, where is that form? You've asked it more than one time. And so conditional permissions allow us to give people who are part of the workflow visibility into the documents that are traversing through the workflow. And that is very useful. We could do it before, but we had to do it in a different way and not based on role. Like I had to add all of the departmental admins by person to do that before. And now conditional permissions are great. So our current thing is that we have minimal integration with Banner, which is our student information system. We pull a few things out. We would like to be able to both pull more information out and potentially push things to Banner from Kuali Build. For example, the first app I built for the graduate school, I asked the graduate dean, I said, what would be a high impact practice for you? And he said, graduate assistantship offer letters. Well, we collect information about the number of hours, what they're getting paid, and all of these things have to, on the back end, have to be put into our student information system. So if we could push directly from that, that would be a good enhancement. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, I could say many, many, many other things, but that's where I'll stop.
Yeah, it really seems like once word got out, things just really started to take off for y'all. I'm amazed at how far reaching the use of Build has become over the course of time. Just one thing I want to mention on the integration front, because I know you guys aren't doing a lot of integrations right now, but for the audience, I have to say integration is one of Build's strengths. We have a RESTful API, returns a full JSON array for the technical folks listening. So we are ready to plug in to your system. The trick we often run into is the degree to which other third-party systems like student information systems are capable, have an outlet for our plug, right? So it's give and take in that regard, but we are ready. So really proud of that API and its ability to integrate. And we have a lot of great success stories from folks who've been able to integrate, and how that manifests when you build forms and workflows is in a variety of ways, but a simple way is when you just need data validation. If you wanted to have a drop-down autofill with values from another system. So pulling that data over so that various fields auto-populate in various forms inside Build. Okay, Dr. Gaede, thank you for that history. That is very comprehensive, and I appreciate you sharing there. Roy, I want to turn to you because, as I understand it, y'all were at one of our user conferences a while back, and you were there for research. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, so you guys were early adopters of our quality research platform, and you went to a session for Build. What did you see? What did you discover? What was your reaction?
Yeah, so first of all is that, for us to be able to, for me to push Kuali Build to our campus, to explain to the vice presidents how great Build is based on quality research, because we've been using it about a year ago, and we realized how powerful it can be, especially the workflow at the back end when we routing the proposals and awards. And when we crossed Kuali Build, it was like a aha moment. Said, hey, this is something that we can, with a similar concept in the back end, but like a form we can build in the front that we can set up with making the form become like intelligent, right, so to speak. So when we saw that, and I remember talking to Scott and said, hey, this software can one day can be really useful for us since we're already familiar with the quality research. So that the workflow definitely is the key that made the sell to us. And then when we requested for Sandbox, we sat on the Sandbox for a bit, because if you look at the timeline, we just launched quality research. And we were neck deep, especially Scott too. They were just the whole campus that had to get to use to quality research. We put in a bit on the back burner on quality build, but once we had time to come back, I was able to convince the vice president of research at the time, say, hey, quality build is a software we can definitely use. And then that will just make sure that, of course, there's resistance. There were times people asking, hey, why is that? Why we already have we are Google School, we have Google Forms, as you said. So yeah, but I'm glad I stuck my gun with it, and I said, you know what? If the whole campus don't want it, research on it. Let's just go get it. And as soon as we launched the software, and I think our boss, Bob Lindquist, saw the value of it, and then when he became the provost office, he was acting provost at the time, and he was able to push through for the whole campus to have the campus license. And then Scott has been solid for us. He managed the day-to-day in quality build at the beginning, and we were able to explain to the folks how to use it, and that's where we are right now. So
cool. Scott, let's talk about that a little bit. So you were one of the earliest adopters there. As you dove in, talk a little bit about your first impressions of Build. And I'm curious about your training, what your experience learning Kuali Build was like, and then the implementation when you started to build your first forms and workflows.
Yeah, like Roy was saying, we got into the Sandbox on kind of a free trial because of our relationship with Kuali through Kuali Research. And during that, like he said, we were really busy with research, but once we started getting into it, it's okay. I worked with Liz Christensen, who is or was with Kuali at the time, and she was extremely helpful to kind of explain to us, okay, here's how you build, and here's what the workflow does. And by the way, here's what it can do. And so working with her and a couple of the other engineers with Kuali, I know Greg Mash was one that really worked side by side with me for a while. During implementation, we were able to discuss things not only on an operational level, which the majority of app builders are becoming familiar with, but even on a deeper level, building integrations and understanding how the data can be tied to other data systems. Knowing that we could go deeper into that really expanded the potential use cases and everything that we could do with Kuali Build. In fact, right now I'm looking at a data output that one of our customer service managers got me last night, and we have 49 active integrations right now, which is not, I guess in the grand scheme, is not a lot, but they're used extremely well. Like a lot of apps rely on them. And the majority are pulling from Kuali Research data. And it could be simple things like additional user data, like their office phone number on campus, or being able to separate out their first name and their last name, because the format by default is last name, comma, first name. Well, sometimes you want to be able to split that out to make the emails look a little nicer. Little things like that. Yeah. Even doing integrations with Google Sheets, so that one of our colleges, I think College of Business, they keep data on a Google Sheet. Well, we were able to interact with that and pull the data from that onto a Kuali form. Nice. And then even being able to be a little bit self-referential, whereas if we can use Kuali Build almost as a database where we create one app that stores data, and then we can call to that app with an integration and pull it onto another app.
Wow.
We can get our users that can select, for instance, an academic year, and that academic year is referenced on sort of a baseline app, if you will. And then from there, it will auto-populate several other options that we may need. So it's been really neat to kind of see the potential and actually achieve some of those potential things that we wanted. And it all started through the sandbox, learning just little things by little things, and then through the implementation, working with the engineers and really understanding this is what this system can do, the software system.
Yeah, I have to mention, so a couple things. Liz is still with us. She's actually here on the webinar today as an audience member, and she's sending me Slack messages. She's happy to see you all. She says hi. And I'll mention Liz at the very end of our webinar. She's our build maven expert, and she's been working in higher ed for a long time, even beyond Kuali, as an instructor. So we'll talk more about Liz in a little bit. And you mentioned the sandbox. That's actually something we offer. So folks who are listening in today, if you're interested, if you're serious about learning more about Build and would like to get your hands on it and see what you're able to create and what it's capable of, we'll be connecting with you after this webinar, and you'll have the opportunity to talk about setting up a sandbox environment and see, if that's something you're interested in perusing. But Scott, that story you talk about, just how things took off, and I'm curious, can you talk a little bit about what it was? Because you've built a lot of things, and the thing I'm imagining as one of the audience members listening to the three of you share your story is it might seem really far-fetched and utopian. You're doing so much, right? You've got this integrated world, data is flowing, timelines have shrunk down, approvals are happening, you have a bird's eye view on where things are at. But getting from where you were before, let's actually start there. That's what I'm interested in. Talk to me about life before Kuali. Talk to me about what the business processes were, how things got approved, how you managed just the various things that Kuali is taking care of today. How did you do that before Kuali came into the picture?
Absolutely.
We'll start with you.
And I'm going to extend this because I feel it needs context to when we brought in Kuali Research in 2019 and really 2018 to prep up for going live, right? So when we brought in Kuali Research, this was for the research administration, the sponsor programs group. And prior to that automated approval process for proposals, it was a lot of email back and forth, a lot of sometimes even paper signatures having to be made. And the transition time where an email goes out, okay, well, maybe someone can't get to it necessarily, or they see it and they just don't get to it for a certain amount of time. Now it's got to go back to the source, and then the source has to send it out to another place, right? And so you can see this kind of web or spoken and wheel thing happening. And that was kind of the existing pathway for our sponsor programs group before Kuali Research. Kuali Research comes in, and now instead of it being kind of a spoken hub type of system, now it goes out and it just keeps going around the perimeter, and then eventually comes back to the middle, right? And when we started looking at Build, and I will say, and Liz may get a kick out of this, is that while we were at Kuali Days one year, I happened to sort of procure several of, I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but several of these nice little lovely tubes of lip balm that are amazing, and would strategically place them in offices across campus as we would go to talk to people and to kind of give them some tips on how to use Kuali and Kuali Research and stuff. So we were already sort of spreading the word about Kuali through the lip balm, which is notoriously famous. Anyway, so we bring in Kuali Build. Yeah, there you go. We bring in Kuali Build.
Don't worry, Dr. Gaede. We'll get you your own lip balm. This is world famous Kuali lip balm.
World famous, that's right. So we started looking at Kuali Build, and we noticed that it had the potential to act in the same way. And a lot of the fact that a lot of these forms that required multiple approvals, or even just acknowledgements, reviews, whatever it may be, it would always start from a source, go to a recipient, come back to the source, go to another recipient, come back to the source. It would rarely go from reviewer to reviewer. And so the transition time to get from one person back to the next person back to the next person back, And we saw what Kuali Research did, and we saw that Kuali Build operated in pretty much the exact same way, at least the potential could. And we're cutting out all that time spent where it's having to come back to another inbox and then wait and then go back out to a recipient, wait to get reviewed, come back to another inbox. And so now we're bypassing all of that. And it's just going directly from the first reviewer to the second reviewer to the third reviewer, and then so forth.
Wow.
And so it's really cut out for a lot of the processes. It's cut out. I don't know the number, so I'm not going to venture a guess, but it's significantly reduced the review time.
I can tell you that for one of our apps, I was told by users that we went from 2 to 4 weeks to best case of less than 24 hours.
Wow. Dr. Gaede, tell us a little bit more. I'm curious about your experience, what life was like before Kuali came into the picture. Talk about the business, just the day-to-day business operations, things that Kuali is effectively replacing today.
Well, as like I said, one of the things that has is visibility is much improved in communication. We used to have these grade change forms where this triplicate form that you filled out with a heavy hand and multiple pieces of paper were sent to people. And I don't know that the student ever got a notice of what had happened with the grade change form. They had to stumble upon it somehow. One of the things I think we really stepped up is because we can notify people automatically, we are able to let a lot more people know what has happened. And so we were emailing around PDFs, and then that has to be serial. One of the things that we've done is, for example, one of the apps I built for the graduate school is the thesis dissertation signature form. It's something that needs to be signed by everybody, but in no particular order. So in the app, I send it to everybody at the same time. And then only when it comes back together, only when everybody signs does it go on, but it's gone to everybody at the same time. So I'm doing things in parallel.
I'm curious about, Roy, I'll turn this question over to you. I'm curious about how word started to get out about Build. It started as a tool for research. Talk to me about that process. How did it happen?
Yeah, so definitely Kuali Build itself has, is a software that we liked. Explaining to people that never used Kuali software before. I'm not saying just Kuali Build. I'm talking about Kuali software, like Kuali Research. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit tricky. So I told my boss at the time, say, hey, the reason we want to spend money to buy anything is to solve problems, right? Especially at where we are. So we had like a real life crisis at the time. We, as research heavy, as Dr. Gaede said, we have to make sure that all our researchers make sure that if they involve the activities outside the campus, they have to let us know. Otherwise, it could be a conflict of interest or a commitment issue. So there comes the question goes, hey, Professor A, have you submitted a document to request to engage outside activities? There's a form for that. There's going to get on PDF. Oh, I did. Oh, who do you send to? Oh, I sent to College of Engineering. And then I have a Professor B goes, oh, I sent mine to College of Science because my department, College of Science. Can we see where they are? When's the last time you submitted? Oh, it's in the inbox somewhere. And then you connect, and then you go back to College of Engineering. Someone said, oh, I saved in my document. Someone saved in my inbox. And when's the last time you submitted? Oh, it's hard to tell. So this is where Kuali Build comes in and say, hey, we can design a form based on the hierarchy. The document goes to proper supervisor for approval, and then we can go there and fund them. So real life cases like this was very easy for me to explain to my supervisors, hey, this is a valuable, I think, be a very good software for us to use. Centralize the data, we can always go back to it. And the software itself can be able to route to the right person to approval, and we can see where it stopped, or if any comments during the process. So for me to be able to link the software with solving a real life problem which I'm sure everyone that listen right now can think of something like that. That it is a floating email somewhere instead of a proper centralized proving process. That's where Kuali Build solved it for me and to my guys. So
That's great. Yeah, you know, one of the things that we always remind folks of when we meet new universities and new potential customers is we like to remind them that right now on your campus, somewhere in an office, someone is at this moment creating a new paper document for a business process. And for a lot of folks, that might seem like unreal, like impossible, like, no, there's no way, but it happens all the time. So I often feel like we're evangelizing, like we're trying to get out and save people from, you know, that fate, you know, and I think you guys have probably found yourself in a similar position. It certainly seems that way as things have managed to catch on. Dr. Gaede, talk to me about your first exposure to Build. I'm curious about what it's like to learn how to use Kuali Build. How long did it take you to get acclimated, become an expert at Kuali Build? And then conversely, or also, you know, your app administrators and other departments across campus, what kind of training is usually required for them to build their own forms and workflows?
Become an expert? That's an interesting question. Acclimated, not much, because I have taught programming and such and done visual programming. So I'm maybe an unusual administrator with that background. So not much, though. A real part of the process is not just about building the form, but if you're going to build the form, let's go take a look at this process and say, all right, I have this piece of paper and I know kind of what we did with it before, but why did we do what we did with it before? And should we still do the same thing going forward? Or are there some other things that we could do that it makes sense to change? And but once I started building apps, like I said, it's fun for me. I would sit down with other people, kind of took a one-on-one approach. We really don't have formal training, and we keep thinking we're going to get around to that someday. But so many people have just jumped in and done it. And none of these people are OIT people other than, you know, Scott. We have the resource manager in the College of Education. We have the administrative assistant in the College of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences. We have, they are staff people on the ground who see that things could be better, and they understand the processes, and they can, the Kuali Build interface is intuitive enough that they can do what they want. And when they have questions, they call us and we help them, and we continue to spread the good word.
Nice. Great. All right. We are about 9 minutes away from the bottom of the hour, and I know folks will have to go at that point. So I want to make sure I get some of these we've had a number of audience questions come streaming in. The first here from Alicia is Kuali Build available to an institution that is using the older version of Kuali, so a previous version of one of our Kuali products? If so, is there the ability to link the two so information in Build can pull data / information from the older version of Kuali and vice versa? I think as you guys have demonstrated with your integration with Kuali Research, the answer is yes, and that's universally true. Kuali Build was born in the cloud. It's cloud native. You know, Build does not have an older version. Build is the new version of Kuali Build. So if you're using another one of our products, yes, we do in fact integrate. Question around document management. Whether or not Kuali Build has any functionality around document management for storage and access. Yes, but we probably need to get into specifics around what we can and cannot do. So that's a question that will require some more nuanced answers to answer accurately. So let's be sure to follow up post conversation to make sure that we can connect. Question about Kuali. I'm going to pronounce the name wrong. I always do, but Koos, Coeus. This is an older version of Kuali. That normally means that it's an on-prem solution. It's an older version of our software. But it's a foundation product. So we'll have to see whether or not we talked about the outlet and, we've got the plug ready to go. Our API is ready to go. We have to talk about whether their on-prem solution is ready to integrate with our API. But in all likelihood, yes. Question about, can we see a demo? We would love to show you a demo. We don't have time to get into a good demo over the course of this webinar, but yes, let's please connect afterwards and we can give you a full demo. Let's see, other questions coming in. Bear with me. Let's see. Sorry if I missed this, but do your compliance review boards, ICOOK, IRB, IBC, use Kuali? And if so, I guess this is a question for y'all. If your compliance review boards use Kuali, and if so, are they able to rely completely on Kuali, or do they have to use other software systems in conjunction? Scott's processing. I'll read it again.
No, I understand the question. I don't think so, but I didn't know if you guys had anything as part of Kuali research that IRBs were doing.
Quality research does have modules for compliance and protocols and negotiations. I don't know that we're using them at all. I'm not sure if we've got them set up yet. I'll have to go back and look.
Okay, let's see. Just scanning for a couple more here. So this is sort of a general question from Allison. Who are your typical build users in terms of building forms and workflows? What skills are essential for someone in this role? So is there a build administrator that kind of fits? Is there a mold, typical persona, if you will?
It's somebody who thinks there's got to be a better way and is open to doing something and is going to figure it out.
I'll say that we're and Dr. Gaede kind of touched on this earlier, we're in a bit of a unique situation that our associate provost has an engineering and programming background. So it didn't take much to get her on board, and she's been able to basically teach to the academic side, to the staff assistants, to the resource managers who do not have that background, how to set up not only a simple form and workflow, but even introducing logic elements into it. So I would venture to guess that the majority of the app builders that we do have little to no programming background at all, but they've been able to take the software, understand how to build the form. It's like she said, it's very intuitive. And even in the workflow, not only produce just a linear workflow, but also do logic branches and other branches that are based on form data.
All right. There's a few other questions that I'm not sure I have the exact answer to. I want to make sure I give accurate answers. I promise anyone who's asked a question, we will reply to all of them directly post-webinar. So I've got all of those captured. We're about out of time. I want to end with just a couple of slides here to close things out. And again, I want to thank the three of you for joining us today. This was a really great webinar. You guys have come so far. You're doing so much. It's such, I hope, an inspiration to everybody who attended today's webinar. You mentioned Kuali Days. We took a break there with the pandemic. We had a virtual Kuali Days, but we're bringing it back this year in Long Beach, California. And this is open to certainly, current customers of Kuali across all of our product lines, but it's also open to any of you who might be considering a Kuali product at some point down the line. We still have seats available. This is going to be a lot of fun. We're real excited about some of the keynote presentations, some of the activities that we have planned. I understand there's karaoke night. So it's in Long Beach in April is just incredible. So I'd encourage everyone to check that out. Check out our website to learn a little bit more. And finally, if you want to learn more about Build, grab your phone real quick, hold it up to your screen, open your camera, and scan this QR code. And this will take you to a page with all of our key links. So you can go to our YouTube channel, our Twitter, our Facebook, our webpage. We have a ton of case studies. There'll be a case study coming soon from another university in just the coming days. So yeah, check out our website. And finally, we mentioned Liz earlier. Here she is, our VP of Sales and Consultation. Liz is great. She really just wants everyone to be successful. She supports not only Kuali Build, but research, curriculum, catalog as well. So all Kuali questions. Make sure you take a picture of this slide here or just jot down her email address. And reach out to her. As I said, I will be following up on everyone's questions. So if I didn't get to it, or if you have a question in mind right now, just drop that into the Q&A. I'll capture that. I'll get back to you. And finally, for everyone who attended the webinar, if you had to drop off early, we're going to send a link to the recording of this webinar so you can share it with your compatriots there at the office. Spread the word, let everybody know about the webinar. And finally, we're going to send a quick follow-up. Someone from our team will just reach out, touch base with you. We talked about setting up a sandbox. We talked about setting up a demo. We're more than happy to do that and show you, get inside Kuali Build and show you what it's capable of. All right, that's it. That's everything. Dr. Gaede, Roy, Scott, thank you so much for your time today. This is a really great webinar. I enjoyed learning from you. And excited for what's to come. So keep at it. Thanks again. And to everybody who joined us today, thank you so much for taking an hour out of your day to learn about Kuali and Kuali Build. With that, we'll end. Take care, everybody. Bye.